Alpha India 6, Delta Golf. Come on, I know there's more than just 3 of us.
November Romeo 6 Hotel. This is Anders with some technical difficulties, but I'm getting there in Folsom.
All right. N6PGQ Bob, AI6DG Joel. And Joel, it was nice to meet you in real life the other day. Carol, KP4MD. Anders, NR6H. It was nice to see you again in real life. And let's see, KN6QNJ, me. That's 5 of us. All right. We'll give Anders a moment to fix his technical problems. Well, actually, Anders, is there anything we can do to help you with the technical problem before I ask Bob to start?
The janitor reset worked. I rebooted everything, and now I'm up and running. So I am ready when it's my turn. NR6H.
All right, thanks. Okay, N6PGQ, go ahead. Bob, I'm not hearing anything.
Yeah, that's because I was on the phone and kind of off in La La Land. So if this works, it should be PD 120.
N6PGQ, KN6QNJ. I have not seen one of those in a while. Following your analog theme, I love it. Joel, AI6DG, comments.
Hey, yeah, I've got one of those in the other room. Or, yeah. It is a old Coleman white gas 3-burner camp stove. And I bet you're seeing fewer and fewer of those because fewer and fewer people probably know how to run them right, and they're all old ones that are probably wearing out. The rubber gasket parts starting to leak and need to be repaired. So you can probably pick these up pretty cheap at garage sales and junk heaps and Goodwills and so forth. All you got to do usually is clean the jet and replace any old rubber gaskets. And then, but these things were great. None of that propane, butane stuff. That. Although it is a bit of a hassle to get a white gas stove running. But I love the smell of that white gas. And a good way to start a fire, a log-on fire, is just throw some white gas on it and then very carefully and with great distance set it on fire because it's going to go whoosh. We got a nice bar about a quarter of the way down on the top from when they repeater ID'd. Yep, that's it. Back to net. AI6DG. Oh, standard green Coleman. Yep, back to net.
AI6DG, thanks. KP4MD, comments?
Yeah, this is KP4MD. Good copy. Hardly any pixel pops, and yeah, I do see the repeater ID bar about 1/3 of the way down the picture. And I was just going to say some kind of a barbecue. I don't know all the details, but Joel would know all that stuff since he's an outdoors person. Okay. People like to do barbecues when the weather gets a little warmer. I haven't done anything like that in a long time. I started out with a little hibachi with some charcoal, and that was kind of fun many, many years ago. Back to nets, KP4MD.
Thanks, Carol. Anders, NR6H.
Excellent copy. I got the repeater ID like everybody else. Very few pixel pops, good colors, a little low resolution, but not sure if that's SSTV or the conversion. They made them better in the past, definitely. I mean, the simple things like those wings, the windbreakers that you fold out. I mean, that's such a simple thing. Why don't they put that on new barbecues? I don't know, but yeah, that would be nice. NR6H, back to net.
Thanks. Yeah, I got great copy. I also see the repeater ID, but it's very clean, both on YouTube and on my computer. Bob, is this something that you had as a scout?
No, I've had this one probably about 20, 25 years, and it's getting a little tired. You can see from the front that the metal has started to rust a little bit. Of course, that's because we go to the ocean a lot, and salt air doesn't do a good job with cheap metal. Let me let this drop. This was one of the first Coleman stoves that they called a dual fuel stove, and you could use either white gas or unleaded gas in it. And with the new unleaded gas, with all the chemicals the state's putting in and the alcohol they're putting in, I don't ever think I would try running it on pump gas. But this does use Coleman white gas, as they called it, and it is not hard to start if you know a couple of good tricks. And anyway, we're planning on going camping next week, and so I made sure that the tank was full and the burners burned and everything else. So that's pretty much it. It packs up, and we do most of our cooking outside, so you don't stink up the living quarters. N6PGQ.
Thanks, Bob. Any questions for Bob before we move to Joel?
Comment?
AI6DG.
You said that's one of the dual fuels. I was going to say that looked like one of the newer ones, although I don't know if that's a reflection on how long it's been since I used mine last or how old mine is. I think mine's quite a bit older than this, which means it must really be old if this is 20 years old. But these go back to the 1800s, this basic style. I mean, this design has not changed in 100 years, much more than 100 years. Back to net, the I6DG.
And I'll throw in another comment real quickly. Coleman is still making these things, only they don't make 3-burner stoves anymore, which is really unfortunate because it fits in my camp box real well, and I'd like to have a new one, so maybe I'll start looking on eBay. Yeah, this has been real reliable, and I do have real old ones that just don't travel with me, N6 PGQ.
Bob, we use the Weber Q1000 or Q1200, which we really like. I have to say, while I have a historical affinity to the Coleman stove, if you haven't checked out the Weber, you may want to. Any other comments before we move to Joel? All right, AI6DG. Sounds good.
PD120.
AI6DG, great copy. Carol, do you want to comment first?
This is KP for MD. Fountain with the Statue of Liberty in the center, but it looks like instead of the normal Miss Liberty, it looks like Piggy from the Muppets. And I see Fozzie Bear behind an old-fashioned movie camera, and a number of animals there. It look like fish or something. Some other characters in a boat. It's quite fanciful. And then in the background there's a brick wall with some windows, and it looks like a 3D, bottom part of a 3D or something, and a Kodak sign. I have no idea where this is. Line of people over on the right side of the fountain looking to go into that doorway. Beautiful picture though, very clear. Back to you. This is KP for MD.
Thanks, Carol. This is KN6QNJ4ID. Anders, NR6H.
Yep. So this would be probably in LA somewhere, where there is a concentration of these kinds of contraptions. I guess Miss Piggy in the middle, like Carol said there, Fonzie Beer to the right, and then is it the I can see it back on the wall, on the, well, probably fake. I don't think it's a real brick wall, but I think it's on the wall, or it's part of the fountain, but I think it's the wall. There's the monster, the big fluffy monster, don't remember his name. And in the pool there's this trumpet thing. Is that the Manamana girl, maybe? I don't know. The animals down in the pool, don't know who they are. But this clearly is at an amusement park in LA. That's my guess. And R6H back to net.
Thanks, Anders. Yeah, it looks like something maybe at Universal Studios or something like that. Joel, AI6DG. Where are we looking?
So I don't know for sure this is even still there, since this was 15 or 20 years ago, but this is Disney World at Hollywood Studio, Disney's Hollywood Studios at Disney World. And yeah, so we've got a fountain. We've got the centerpiece, kind of a Venus de Milo shot, because I think she's standing in a shell. It was Miss Liberty, Miss Piggy, with Ponzi Bear on the right. We got Gonzo on the left with the megaphone, and down below Miss Piggy, opening or closing the valve to turn the fountain on or off, I think is one of the rock band players. And you got a couple of the mice in a little boat to the right of that, and they're all circled by little fish that are with their tails up. I think the idea is, well, I don't know what the idea there is. This was one of the exhibits, and it was for the Muppets. So I'm assuming that the building in back has some sort of Muppet presentation as part of the Disney World entertainment, and yet the people going in, there's a red sign to the right that says entrance, and just to the left of Miss Piggy is actually the Fast Pass entrance. Do they still have Fast Pass? I don't know. Disney has changed how they do things so much, certainly in the last few years, not to mention the last 15 or however many it's been years. I don't remember too much about this trip. It's been so long ago, and I was extremely sick with the flu during all of this. And I don't think we went in. I think I just walked by, saw a great photo, and took it. Back to net, AI6DG.
Thanks, Joel. Yeah, I'm trying to remember if there's a Kodak museum. I don't know what. Anyway, the photo's really clear. There is a repeater ID right in the middle, but other than that, it's excellent quality. Carol, are you ready to share a photo?
Yeah, this will be PD 120.
K4MD, KN6QNJ. There goes my plausible deniability. Anders, do you want to comment first, NR6H?
So I have no idea who's out on the right edge of the picture there, but everybody else I recognize. No. Looks like this is probably the most recent image of the night. See, that has to be something just over 100 hours old, I would assume. And we see on the very far end of the table there, I see Mr. Wilson. And then a whole bunch of other people. I recognize some of them. I don't know all the names, but there is significant food intake going on here, and good reception. Very few pops, no IDs or anything through the picture. Clear, good colors, good sharpness. So all good. NR6H, back to net.
N6PGQ.
Well, I kind of know what this is too. It was Brookfield's last weekend at the River City Arcs breakfast, and you can tell from the fact that everybody's plates are fairly full that we had just started to eat. It's if I can remember right, this is about 2/3 of the people. There's a few people behind the camera, like yours truly. Anyway, it was a good morning, and everybody needs to go at the next one. Hopefully we can get back in the back room so that, we can maybe have a subject that we talk about or something like that. But it was a good time. Everybody seemed to enjoy themselves in 6PGQ.
AI6DG.
Well, I was about to say that I don't know where this is. It's not Brookfield, because it's not the back room at Brookfield. But now you're saying it is Brookfield, so I gather you guys were not in the back room. And I don't really recognize anyone. There's a few familiar faces, but anyway, yep, lots of food, and I'm sure everyone had a good time. Back to net, AI6DG.
Thanks. Well, I was there, and as you can see, and Dave from beautiful downtown Wilton was there. It was a really great turnout, and I'm looking forward to more. And it's River City hosted, but hams that are not River City members should also join us. Joel and Anders, I'm thinking of you specifically. It was from there that I came to see you out in that park in Folsom. KN6QNJ. I'll take a break for a second to see if there are any more comments or questions.
For the record, I am a River City member. Just for the record, NR6H.
I'm glad to hear that, and I didn't know that. Thanks, Anders. Or maybe I knew that and I forgot. Any comments for Carol about the picture?
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to share a recent picture, and this is one of the most recent pictures I have that's relevant. And yeah, we had a wonderful breakfast there. It's the one on Madison Avenue there, right off of I-80. And for those of you who may be VEs that are doing the Carmichael Elks Lodge VE session, they start at 7 a.m., so they're usually completely done by 8:30, and that'd be a wonderful place to stop off and have breakfast. For those who are giving the exam or taking exams, certainly welcome to stop off there. And then just a little bit further down Auburn Boulevard, you could see HRO when they open at 10 o'clock. So you can make it a completely ham radio oriented Saturday morning. We're looking forward to that. At that breakfast, though, we did decide to do a 40-meter round table that afternoon, and that worked out very well at 3 p.m. A number of us in the club got together on 40 meters sideband and just chit-chatted. Which is something we're thinking of doing again. Actually planning to do it again this coming Saturday. We were on 7180, lower sideband, and signals were really good. NVIS propagation is really good that time of day here for local. So back to net. This is KP4 Mike Delta.
Thanks, Carol. In fact, with regard to the VE sessions, the guy either right next to me, the second or third in, one of them just became a technician that morning and came over to the breakfast, which was kind of fun. All right. Anders, NR6H.
All right, let me push some buttons and see if I can make a tone.
Nice tone.
So here goes PD120.
Well, another image, excellent copy. At first I thought it was going to be an HP12C calculator that used Polish notation, which was a calculator I used to use. But it's a Casio calculator and a Casio slide rule down below. I don't know what that is, actually. Carol, why don't you go first, KP4MD.
Okay, this is KP4MD. This is really curious. I'm not familiar with this particular unit, but I had something very similar from Radio Shack. It was a pocket PC that was pretty much the same kind of form factor, and it had the typewriter keyboard on there, so you could put in basic commands. You program it in BASIC, and you could store, I believe, the programs from that onto maybe a cassette tape or something. I'm trying to remember how that was. But I had one that I actually used and published some programs for using in a hospital setting at the time when that was kind of a real new technology back in the early 1980s. I don't know if this is a programmable PC, or if it might just be a calculator, but I think it might be a little more than that because it's got the typewriter keyboard on there. Back to Nets, KP4MD.
That's really very interesting, Carol. This is KN6QNJ. Bob, N6PGQ.
Looks like a, programmable calculator or pocket computer. You have a QWERTY keyboard on the left side and a 10-key pad and an execute button at the bottom. Those things are really cute, and they did not give those things away. Very nice. I hope you have this in a collection rather than having downloaded the picture. N6PGQ.
AI6DG, Joel.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that's a calculator. I think it's sort of a programmable computer. So the display is probably two or three lines. I bet that thing down the bottom is storage, memory storage. And in fact, I think I can kind of see where it plugs in right above it. So you type in your program and store it onto that little card. Then you could swap, if you had more than one of those cards, you could swap the programs in and out. Seems pretty primitive by today's standards, but it was probably pretty fancy at the time, because there was nothing like that back then, whenever this was. Yeah, and interesting to Google it and see what else is out there, but pages of printouts of programs to type in. Remember the magazines where the whole magazine would be programs you could type in? Oh man, dark ages of computers. How things have changed. Back to net, AI6DG.
Thanks, Joel. Well, let's see. I think, Anders, you need to tell us what this is.
So this is something I stumbled on here tonight. Actually, I was looking for something completely different and pulled this out of the museum drawer in my garage here. So yeah, this is mine. It was my second computer, and this is not the calculator. It's actually printed even up top there. It says personal computer, and it is programmable in BASIC. At the time, this was really, really cool because it was a portable little computer you could lug around. This was 1982. I had to look that up, but 1982. I got this from my dad because he was traveling and he happened to have a trip to Japan, and I specifically knew that this thing was just released, and he brought it back. It was brand new. It was like the first week that it was out there. It's got a the speed of this thing, you were counting the CPU speed in RPM on this thing, right? It's super slow. I believe it was like 400 kilohertz or something like that the CPU was running at, and it had a one-line 12-character display up there, so not much resolution to go on. And you could write little programs. It even had an expansion port up top. You could plug in a cassette module, a cassette tape module, or even a printer. And then the thing at the bottom is the RAM memory. So the thing itself runs on a couple of button cell batteries, and the memory card there actually is a RAM memory. It's backed up by its own battery, so it has a button cell battery in it. And I got a few of those. I think I had 3 of those cards that I could swap out, write the program on them, and then and pull it out, and then write the different program, and I could play with that. I had a lot of fun with this. It was the second computer after the ZX80 that I had, but this I learned some basic programming on this thing and used it in school long before the teachers started recognizing that maybe too advanced calculators was not a good thing on the math lessons. But fun little thing, and brings back a lot of memories for me, so I figured I'd share it. The marking on this thing, if you want to look it up, is FX720P. So it's Foxtrot X-Ray 720 Papa. Casio personal computer. NR6H, back to net.
NR6H, KN6QNJ. I was going to say it reminds me of my days at Radio Shack when I used to work there. And coincidentally, KP4MD posted through the YouTube live stream that it's similar to the TRS-80 Pocket PC. So it's really great to see that. Any further comments on this before I send a picture? Anders, I have one question. Did you actually do some programming, and did you create something useful?
Oh yeah, I spent a lot of time with this thing. At that time, as a teenager, I was trying to make games on it, and the fun thing with it was that you could actually make animations on that little screen, even though it was all character-based. But you can actually make things move back and forth. So I made various kind of what were they called? Where you fly to the right. I don't remember now what those games were called, but I made a few games where you kind of flew a little thing and you were kind of ducking for characters that came flying from the side. And yeah, so absolutely, I wrote a lot of software on this little thing. Sadly, it never gained real popularity, so there was never a real big community, unlike the Sinclair stuff. The Sinclair stuff, there was a huge community around, but this thing never gained really traction, so I never published anything that I did on this thing. On the ZX81, I did. That was actually my first few dollars, or in that case, kroner, that I made was for selling software for the ZX80 and 81, but different story, different night. NR6H, back to you.
I have one last comment. It reminds me, I had access to an Osborne computer, and I wrote some papers on that. And boy, that was a long time ago. The world has really changed. Any last comments on this from anyone?
Yeah, this is KP4MD. I would like to say the Sinclair, I had a Timex Sinclair, the ZX81, and I think I even had they had the larger one, not the color one, the one before the color. The problem with those is that you had to use it with a television monitor, but this Pocket PC, or very similar to this, you could carry around in your pocket and use it with programs that you wrote for specific calculations you needed to do. I used it in the intensive care unit to figure out different mixtures of IV fluids, and actually submitted it to the chief pharmacist in the hospital, who went over it and said, yep, everything looks good. Calculations that we always used to do by hand, because it was right around it was, I think, IBM PCs were just about coming around out around that time as well. So this was really cutting edge technology. Back to Nets, KP4MD.
Well, that's really a great practical application. Wow, Carol, that's great. Any other comments on this before I send a photo? All right, I'm going to do a quick tone test. This will be PD 120. All right, Joel, AI6DG, why don't you start?
All right, so we've got a classroom, all white walls, white floor, white ceiling, tile ceiling, suspended tile ceiling. A door in the lower, the back right, just to the right of that is a big bulletin board, it's 4 by 6. And then a bump in the wall, and then a big 4 by 6 whiteboard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows of chairs, each row being, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 chairs, so 9 times 1, 2, 3, 5. So is that 40, 45 chairs? We're looking at the room from the teacher's perspective. A couple of tables in the front. Table on the left has a monitor, a mic and a stand, a headphone to put on the head, and a display with buttons. So maybe that's the AV control for the room. And I don't know what's to the right of that. Maybe it's a clipboard or a tablet or something. To the right of that's another table with a podium on it and a chair behind it. And in the ceiling, we've got a projector, so I'm assuming there's a screen behind us. Stuff in the ceiling, lights, air vent, maybe a camera, a webcam, domed webcam, and probably, the usual fire sensors and so forth. Very clean room, very white and antiseptic looking. Wonder where and what. Back to Net, AI6DG.
Thanks, Joel, AI6DG, KN6QNJ, Anders, NR6H.
So this is obviously a picture that James did not take, because if he has a lecture, the room will never look like this. It will be smack full. But it was probably the cleanest image that I ever received. I can see exactly one pop, and it is right to the right above the black monitor, where the I think it's the thermostat is on the far left on the wall there. To just next to it is one pop, and then I have the repeater ID going across, but that doesn't count. But other than that, there's one pop in the whole picture. It is absolutely pristine. And R6H back to Net.
Thanks, Anders. Carol, KP4MD.
Okay, this is KP4MD. Yep, perfect picture. Classroom, bunch of desks facing towards the teacher's position. Teacher has a, I'm not sure what that is. Is that a telephone on the desk there? I don't know. It's, I really can't say what equipment that is on the desk there. But all I can say is that it's perfect. Just like everyone is saying, no pixel pops, KP4MD.
Thanks, Carol. Carol, your audio dropped down to like 5%. We could barely make out what you were saying.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was trying to talk sideways into this headset. That's the problem. Just essentially saying a classroom, perfect picture. I don't see any pixel pops whatsoever. And I really can't identify that equipment that's on the desk facing towards where the students would sit. Back to Net, KP4MD.
Copied you then. Okay, Bob, N6PGQ. Also, N6WLM, Bill has joined us on the live YouTube stream. Good evening, Bill. All right, Bob, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, the only pixel pop I can see is almost in the middle and all the way to the left, which is next to what might be a thermostat or something people have commented on. The only thing I can add to it is it looks like somebody's got one of those ubiquitous thermos cups for coffee sitting on the notepad that's there, N6PGQ.
Well, the thing that looks like a coffee cup is actually the head of an overhead projector that's just folded down on top of its white white bottom. This is my classroom on Monday. I got there a little bit early, so none of the students were there yet. So I thought I would take a shot, Bob, in your honor, as a demonstration of the analog theme. This is what analog teaching looks like, not on Zoom. And I'm teaching an environmental law and policy class this semester at Sac State. This is in Mariposa Hall, which was built probably less than 10 years ago. I wish there were windows, and I wish there were fewer chairs in the classroom. There is the computer monitor on the left. There's two microphones, a handheld mic and a lavalier clip-on mic. The overhead projector, the podium, and the table that can move around, and the controls between the different PCs, and it does have, Joel, you're right, a camera up in that dome for broadcasting the class if this wasn't a analog class. So that's what it is. Anders, you're right. Usually the class has many more students than this. N6QNJ. Any comments or observations?
AI6DG.
Go ahead, Joel.
I wouldn't consider this a very good representation of analog. Yes, it's teaching in person, but the amount of digital technology in that room is significant. It's not a slate chalkboard. It's not the old-style projectors where you got to put the book into it and have the bright lights shine on them. There's no manual typewriter in the corner or a pencil sharpener out by the door. This is, by my standards, not very analog. Back to NAT AI6DG.
You know, that's a very fair point. I don't know, Bob, does this count for analog or not?
Well, beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Fair enough. Any other comments? And then we have N6WLM Bill who'd like to try to send an image. Bill, are you able to transmit voice on this frequency? All right, he doesn't have the tone. I don't know if it'll work for digital if you don't have the tone either. KP4MD, are you seeing? Oh, okay, Carol just gave it to you, Bill. While we're waiting for November 6 Whiskey Lima Mike to get himself set up, yeah, I haven't taught in this classroom before. I have a good group of students. It's a mix of environmental studies students, political science students, public health students, and econ students, and ecology as well. And it's my favorite class to teach. And I do use the technology. What I don't use are PowerPoints. I use the whiteboards. There's two, one behind and one that you can see on the side wall. And I get the class engaged and do a lot of drawing of graphs and pictures and clouds and greenhouse gases and particulate matter and anything else I can come up with. All right. N6WLM, I'm not sure if you got your tone set. You want to give it a try?
Yeah, this is November 6 Whiskey Lima Mike, Bill, and Roseville. Do you copy me?
Hey, good evening, Bill. We're glad you're here. Yeah, copy perfectly.
Well, thanks for having me. Sorry for joining late. I was playing with my new-to-me radio and trying to set it up for digital modes.
Well, you're coming through on voice perfectly. Do you have the Slow Scan TV software set up?
Yes, I do. And I was hoping to send a test image if you guys would indulge me. I don't know if I'm going to be sending it too hot or what. but this radio doesn't have an ACL meter on it.
Understood. There's a button that says 1750. You can do a quick test. Click that, and then click it again to turn it off, and we can see if we hear a tone before you try to transmit.
Roger, I'll give that a shot. Let me switch out my mic inputs. It might take me a minute to swap. And I'll send the tone. If you hear it, let me know, and then I'll go ahead and send my image as PD120.
Copy that. Any other last advice, you guys, for Bill before he unhooks his mic? All right, Bill, we're standing by. Hey, Alf, KN6PRD. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, that sounded good, Bill. Go ahead. N6WLM. This will generate a lot of conversation this evening, I think. I will say this evening we've been transmitting and having really clean transmissions. You do have a lot of pixel pops, like white pops, that it came through on my end, and it looks like also on YouTube. But boy, really well done, and we're pleased that you joined us. Bob, N6PGQ, comments for Bill on his image.
Yeah, well, so far I've been batting about 0, or maybe 1 or 2. We have a device that has serial number 113 printed on it. Digital noise reduction on the display, DNF and DRF. Looks like somebody's transmitting at 7.143. It could be a receiver. I don't know. I'm not going to even guess. And it looks like it's sitting on a world map indicator, 150 degrees and then to 130 degrees or something like that. N6PGQ.
Thanks, Bob. Joel, AI6DG.
Okay, so the top half of the screen is we've got a circuit board and a bare LCD panel through a ribbon cable on the board hanging down below the board. And the bottom half is that display and maybe a piece of paper with part of a compass indicator on it. And my guess is it's a bare LCD. In other words, we're looking through it at the whatever all of this is resting on top of, the compass thingy. So there's no backlight. We're just the LCD is either transparent or not. And maybe a bit X or something like that. One of the transceiver projects or receiver projects. Back to that AI6DG.
KP4MD.
Yeah, this is KP4MD. I agree. You can see right through that LCD display. You can see the bottom edge of that green PC board. I'm reading 7.143.74, which I imagine is a 40-meter frequency. To the left of that, it says S6, which must be signal strength. And down below that, you can see DNR, DNF, DRF. Although the bottom of those letters, it looks like they're clipped off. It looks like in the upper right-hand corner, there's an indication of voltage, maybe 13.6 volts. Can't read too much above that on that LCD. And then I don't know if that's a reflection or something you're seeing through the LCD. It looks like an FT-something, which is kind of like a model number of a Yaesu radio. It would be an FT-something. I can't read what comes after that hyphen. But yeah, you could on the PC board you could clearly read C1, C2, the stenciled numbers for the components on there. So and you see a ribbon cable going to the LCD display. So back to next KP4MD.
KP4MD, thank you. NR6H. Oh, Anders, before you start, Craig Bruce, Whiskey Papa 2 November, has joined us online. Hello, Craig. Okay, NR6H, go ahead.
So I also received a good image, some evenly spread pixel pops across the whole thing, but still can't make out what everybody else talked about there. The PCB in the back looks like a somewhat professionally made board with proper designators on all the components. Serial number 113 means that it's either a very low volume project or a very early model of something. There's a CPU type QNP, whatever. Yeah, a CPU type chip up in the top right of the board. We see a bunch of LEDs. I wonder if those are intended to light up the backlight. Usually you put some kind of like a fuzzy plastic behind that to spread the light. So maybe that's what that is. It actually looks like there are push buttons. If you look through the display and the three LEDs that are shining through the display, there looks like push button switches underneath each of those three. And then I see what everybody else saw there with the text on the display. It says VFO something up in the top left of the display. There's a hole in the PCB on the far left, and then that interesting compass type graphics on the piece of paper. So yeah, we will certainly be interested to know what this is. NR6H back to that.
Thank you, Anders. This is KN6QNJ for ID. All right, Bill, November 6, Whiskey Lima Mike. Thanks for sharing this. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, November 6, Whiskey Lima Mike in the group. This is, well, Carol is very close. Actually, you're all very close. Thank you for letting me send this photo. I'm pretty happy with the quality before I describe what it is. I've only sent this with 5 watts, so I'm glad it's, I see the copy on YouTube and it came through pretty well. So this is an LCD screen for a Yaesu FT857 that I just picked up that had the very, the zebra stripe issue, as they call it, where you lose a lot of columns in your LCD screen. So I had to replace the screen, and this is the result of my attempts. So I got this replacement screen from AliExpress. It took about a month to get here, and as you see, it works. So I'm really happy with the results. I'll jump real quick. So yeah, it was quite an effort to solder this on. The original ribbon was very fragile and actually broke off and left traces on the board, so I had to clean those up very carefully and then solder in this new board, which also has this ribbon attachment for the LCD screen, which you can see through, which I thought was kind of nice effect. So I took a picture of my handiwork, and so far it's been working fairly well with me. So this is now my field radio, this C2FT 857, and I hope to use it during winter field day. Back to that.
Oh, that's great, Bill. What's the chart that you have it set on? Is that a world map, a Smith chart, just a compass? What are we looking at?
Oh yeah, the chart, that's an azimuth map centered on my location. I saw it online and I generated one, and that's what you're seeing as the degrees around the map. And the center is my QTH. I just set it down so I didn't damage my table when I was soldering, and I just kind of left it. There was a nice work mat.
Well, the photo's excellent. The composition is great. What a great project to share. We really appreciate you joining us tonight. I hope you'll join us every week. We're here every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Any comments for Bill? Comments or questions? Please go.
N6PGQ.
Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, you guys are always way better at looking at things than I am. I just wanted to echo N6WLM's comment about the azimuth map. They're really handy. You can find them online by looking under NS6 Tango, NS6T. Tom provides the map. You just put your location in and it prints it with you right at the center. And so if you want to aim at Africa, you aim a little bit differently than you think you would. Like South Africa is about 80 degrees off, and England is sitting there at, 15 degrees, and it doesn't feel like it if you're looking at a flat projection map, N6PGQ.
Oh, thanks, Bob. I'm going to look that up. Any comments, other comments or questions for Bill?
I'm curious about the low serial number, NR6H.
AI6DG.
All right, let's start with Anders. Bill, did you hear his question about the low serial number, if indeed that is the serial number?
Yes, I did. November 6th, Whiskey Lima Mike. I'm not sure about the serial number. It looks like they did some rudimentary checks because on the other side of the PCB board there is red check marks off of different traces where I think they might have had test points. The buyer I bought this from on AliExpress has only sold 50, at least of this run. So I kind of believe the serial number being that low, 113, since it's just kind of a specialty product. And Carol did notice correctly that I am missing the bottom row of the LCD, and you probably didn't notice I'm missing the left 3 columns, because the screen that they sell that's not OEM anymore just doesn't come in that size. So my option was to buy this from AliExpress for $50 or buy the whole head unit for $200. So I rolled the dice, and I guess I came out lucky.
Thanks. Did that answer your question, NR6H?
I think so. So just to understand, the board, the PCB board, was part of the kit that you bought, and so that is not the original Yaesu part.
Roger, Roger, yes. So that you can notice there is a square where it says SN113. That is the beginning of the board that was shipped to me. Behind it, the larger green board with all the lights, that is the original Yaesu board. That is just the head unit board, where the original LCD was attached to that area. But the whole thing was 2 ribbon cables. The original one had 1 ribbon cable that they then fused to a second ribbon cable that then did a 180-degree turn into an LCD screen, which I guess is just very prone for failure.
That clarifies it. Thank you so much. NR6H, back to Net.
All right. Joel, you're next, AI6DG. Bill, I just want to comment that if you sent that with just 5 watts from Roseville, I'm very impressed. That came through great for that. Okay, Joel, AI6DG.
Darn it, I forgot what I was going to say. What could it have been? Let me think of my...
We'll give you a second, Joel. Any other questions from anyone else while Joel is gathering his thoughts?
November 6th, Whiskey Lima Mike.
Go ahead, Bill.
I was wondering if any, 5 watts. I was wondering if I increase my power, would that help with the pixel pops, or is there something else that I can improve to get a better quality send?
Who wants to answer that?
NR6H.
Go ahead, Anders.
So you have a little bit of white noise on your signal, so I think that increasing the power would probably take care of that and probably overrule some of the pixel pops. But the pops come from the military system, and when they're there, they're very powerful. So they're hard to mute out completely. But I think a little more power would probably help. Yes, NR6H.
Thanks, Anders. Joel, have you gathered your thoughts?
Okay, first continuing the previous conversation, are you on an outside antenna? How high up is it? What kind of antenna? 5 watts with a good antenna system should be plenty. But yes, more power. You're weak into the repeater. And the grand circle. So you look at a flat map, and it's not a good it's always a compromised representation of a sphere. So the shortest point between 2 points on a sphere is the grand circle, the great circle. And yes, it's not always the direction that seems obvious. Back to Net AI6DG.
Thanks, Joel. All right, any other last comments, suggestions, ideas before I close the net?
Yeah.
6 Whiskey Lima Mike. I have is an 8-element Yagi at about 20 feet, but it's fed through 100 feet of RG8, since I'm very new to the hobby. So I probably should sit down and do the math to not exceed the 80-watt PEP for Sacramento Valley. I didn't want to, get the military on me. November 6th, Whiskey Lima Mike.
Right, and I'm wondering, that's a long run of RG8 for this frequency. I wonder if you, others could comment on this, want to use something like LMR 400. Go ahead, Carol.
Okay, yeah. First of all, Bill, I wanted to tell you that you can run 50 watts out of your transmitter, and you can run as high a gain antenna as you want. It's not the ERP. The limit 50 watts is power coming out of your transmitter, so you can use a high gain antenna as you want. So that's not a problem. The other comment I would like to say is that type of map is probably favored by the hams who are flat earthers. kind of reflects their view of the world.
Those are the true analog people. Any comments about the coax that Bill's using? I wonder if he should have a heftier coax.
AI6DG.
Go ahead, Joel.
Did you say 5858?
November 6 Whiskey Lima Mike. Yeah, I believe it's 58/U. Don't quote me on that. I bought it from another ham at a very discounted rate, and I've only been licensed less than a year, so I'm still collecting gear here and there.
RG58 is terrible for 2 meters and especially 440. So you're probably losing 90% of your signal, both coming and going, just in the coax. So the first thing to do is to replace that RG58. Back to net AI6DG.
Go
ahead, Anders.
So looking at the chart here, RG58 is dropping you about 10 dB on 400 megahertz. So that's a lot. And if you bump that up to an LMR 240, you're down to about 5 at 100 feet. So yeah, there is some to gain there for sure. But the distance is obviously the bigger problem. If you go to an LMR 400, you can drop it down to 2.7 here, according to the chart. So look up the specs on the cable. There are plenty of, just to Google the type of cable and put the word attenuation after it, and you'll find plenty of sources of information for that. But yeah, 10 dB is a lot.
Roger that. November 6 Whiskey Lima Mike. Yeah, I guess I'm negating the entirety of my Yagi and probably sending out just 5 watts because that's what I'm transmitting at. But that's a great advice. I'll go ahead and look into LMR 400 and hopefully I could stomach the price. November 6 Whiskey Lima Mike, back to net.
Thanks, Bill, for joining us. I think with that, I'm going to thank everybody who participated in tonight's Slow Scan TV Net. It was a lot of fun. We hope to see and hear everybody again next Wednesday at 9 p.m. The net is officially closed at 10:16 p.m. This is James, Kilo November 6, Quebec November Juliet, wishing all of you a good evening. So, Bill, there's a unanimous opinion that at some point you should look at replacing your coax if you want to push out more power.
Roger that. Yeah, I think you guys are all correct. And Carol probably has the math way better than I do. I didn't think about it that, yeah, you eat the wattage up to the antenna, and then the antenna is going to have whatever gain of that amount. It's not like I'm negating each other. Oh, that's funny. But yeah, I'll have to look into LMR 400, and I honestly don't need a 100 feet run anyways, because the antenna is right outside the door. That's the coax I have. But thank you for the advice. I'll try to find some LMR 400 on the cheap. If you have any suggestions, I'm all ears. November 6 Whiskey Lima Mike.
There are lesser quality Chinese brand. It's called KMR 400, Kilo Mike Romeo, so KMR 400. It's not quite as reliable as LMR 400, but for anything under 100 feet, it's definitely good enough, and you can get that on Amazon for pretty cheap. 100 feet is about $80, so go look for that. NR6H now signing off because I have an early meeting tomorrow morning. Have a good night. Thanks for a good net. 7-3.
7-3, Anders. All right. Any other comments? Carol, if you have a second, I want to